Welcome back to the channel, y'all. Like I promised in my last video, I was going to try to get the second one out ASAP. I actually went and played 2 sessions since my last video, but both those sessions my phone was on like 20%, and my charging port on my phone is kind of screwed up. So trying to charge and record hands, and after each hand that I wanted to post, I would have to go in my notes and write down the action. That's how I do it. And my phone just was not cooperating, so I ended up not being able to get footage for both those sessions. But I'll give you a quick rundown. First session, bought him for 1,000. I kind of played like shit, got down to like 700, and then tightened my game up, strengthened my game up, ended up running it up to 2,200. So profit of 1,200 from that session. We ended up getting like a huge 4-bet pot with the dude from the King Queen hand from last video. We had Ace-Deuce suited, ended up turning the nuts. Very good run out, honestly. And that table was so deep. I mean, there was like 25, 30 grand on like 9-handed 1-3 table, just insane amounts for the stakes. And second session, honestly, it was kind of a blur. I ran terrible, played terrible, and ended up losing 1,300. So all the profit from the session before that, gone, plus another 100. But hey, it's okay. It's okay, right? If I didn't record and post it, it's like it never happened. So yeah, today we're gonna be running it back at 52, 52 off Richmond. Forgot to mention, don't bully me because of the bed, because it's on the ground. I'm in the process of moving, so the bed rest or the headrest, whatever it's called, we'll get there. But yeah, without further ado, let's go gamble. So we sit down at a 1-3 table for 500 plus 20 in tip chips. First hand we look down at is Jack 10 offsuit in the big blind. 4 limps to me, and I feel disrespected that everyone limps on my big blind, so I race to 25 and only under the gun plus 2 calls. Heads up to a flop of Queen of Diamonds, Jack of Diamonds, 6 of Clubs. I c-bet 30 into 60 and he calls. Turn is a King of Hearts, and I decide to check. He bets 50 here, and while yes, I picked up equity, it's obvious I'm beat here and I don't want to chase a draw with these stack sizes. So I just saved my 50 and fold. We're in the small blind for this one, and there's a button straddle. We pick up ace-5 offsuit, and this mixes as a raise or fold here. I don't think I would ever just flat with 8 people behind me, and majority of the time I just fold here. But ranges are wide in this game from what I've seen so far, so I decided to get in the mix. I raise it up to 20, and only the cutoff calls. We go heads up to a flop that comes out Ace of Diamonds, 8 of Spades, Jack of Diamonds. I bet 20, and he calls. Turn is an 8 of Clubs, which is a good card because now we don't have to worry as much about our kicker, but we also aren't going to be able to get a ton of value out of worse hands. So I check and he checks it back. River is a Jack of Hearts, and at this point, I just want to get to showdown. I check and he bets 50. The flop was pretty draw heavy, and none of them hit, so I could easily see a missed flush or straight draw. Bet this river after I checked 2 streets. One thing I will say though is his sizing, looking back, does seem pretty value-y. If he is going to try to get me off a hand, he'd probably go for a more polarized sizing. Anyways, I call, and Buddy shows King Jack of Spades. He had less than a 5% chance to win on the turn, and he binks it on the river. But I'm curious as to what y'all think about my check on the turn. I should have the best hand a majority of the time, but it's hard to get 3 streets of value with my exact hand. I was planning on leading most rivers, but after the board double pairs, obviously it just plays naturally as a check. Now that I'm thinking about this more, if my plan is to get 2 streets of value, I think I should make the 2 streets the flop and turn because, like I said, I should have the best hand on the turn the majority of the time, and I'm still able to charge draws, while if I go for value on river instead of turn, obviously no draws will be calling and not many weaker hands will be calling as well. Also, the bet check bet line in live poker is such an underbluff line, and with as weak of an ace as I have, I probably just end up valuing myself that way. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. I reload for 200 more, and action starts on us this hand as we look down at good old pocket 10s under the gun. I open at 20, and the low jack and button both call. 3-way to a flop of 6-6-4. I forgot what the suits were for this board, and I don't want to just make them up, but there was no flush possibility by the river. Anyways, on a paired board, as the initial raiser pre, I see bet third pot, which I almost always do in this spot. Both players call, and I still believe I have the best hand here. Turn is a 9. I bet 75 and a 125. The low jack calls and the button folds. River is a 5, and he can still have all the 6s and full houses here, so if I see a bet out of him on the river, it's going to be pretty gross. I check, and thankfully he checks it back and shows 8-9 of clubs for top pair, and we take it down with pocket 10s. Can't help but give thanks to the poker gods for not putting any overs on the board. As we're rearranging our chips, we glance down at Jiggities in the small blind. There's 4 limps to me, and I raise to 25. Only the low jack calls, and we go heads up to a flop of king of clubs, 10 of diamonds, 7 of hearts. Only one over on this board, so I see bet 25, and I'd love to just see a fold here, but he makes the call. The turn comes out, you guessed it, an ace, specifically the ace of clubs. I check it to him, and he bets 40. I saw the gutter, you know. I decide to get sticky and call. I mean, come on, what type of man would I be folding jacks 2 overs, huh? You gotta have the ha! Yeah, well, the river's a 5 of spades. I check, and he bets 60. I go into the tank here, pouting to the poker gods. I can't remember the last time I won with jacks post flop, and it seems I won't be doing it here either. I fold jacks face up, just so everyone at the table gives me sympathy. The low jack nods his head, confirming the fold, but no amount of confirmation or sympathy can fulfill the yearning of desire I have to get to showdown and win with Mr. Jigs. Till next time, buddy. I love you, but I hate you. We've only won 1 pot in an hour of play, so I start looking for reasons to see a flop. An obvious reason comes our way as we look down at 6-9 suited in the hijack. There's a button straddle, and the big blind and under the gun both call. I just call as well, cutoff calls, and the button checks the option. 5-way to a flop that comes out. 6 of hearts, deuce of diamonds, not of hearts. We flop top 2. Checks to me and I bet 20. Cutoff calls and everyone else folds. The turn is a queen of hearts, bringing in the front door flush. I check and he checks it back. River is another queen, negating the 2 pair already had. Terrible run out, but it checks around and my 6-9 is good. Hope I can make my middle school friends proud. Ace-Deuce of spades is the name of the game here, as I open at 20 and under the gun +1. The low jack and button both call, and we go to a flop of queen of hearts, queen of clubs, queen of spades. I don't even try, and we all just check it around. Turn is a 6 of diamonds, and I check. Low jack bets 25, button calls, and I fold. 2 hands later, we look down at pocket 10s again in the big blind. There's 2 limps to the cutoff, who opens to 15. Button calls, small blind calls, and I 3-bet to 55. Being out of position here against 3 other players, with my specific hand, I probably should have gone larger, somewhere in the ballpark of 70 to 80. But nonetheless, cutoff, button, and small blind all call. 4-way to a beautiful flop of 9 of hearts, 7 of diamonds, deuce of hearts. No one should have an overpair here because no one 3-bet pre. Well, actually the cutoff can have jacks and queens here, but I'd expect a 4-bet from kings or aces. The only person that could have topside here would be the cutoff because he raised pre and then called with 3-bet. Pocket 7s is definitely in everyone's range here, but less weighted for the button because I'd expect him to apply pressure in position pre-flop. 7-9 is another hand I'm behind to, and I can only see that in the button and small blinds range. But if they do have 7-9, they can't have a higher heart than me, so there's a lot of turns that can help me. It's really important to understand board textures and board dynamics in huge spots like this. With all that considered, I land on a bet of half pot, which is 110. The cutoff snap folds, which I love to see, because like I said, he'll have all the sets and overpairs here. It gets to the button, who just rips it all in for over $500. The small blind folds, and I have about 400 left, so he covers me. I only brought 800, so I'll have no money to buy back in if I make the wrong move here. Now, this is a pretty sick spot, but as I'm trying to evaluate the situation, I'm staring at this guy, and I remember playing with him last week, and he's known for just going all in. I try to think back to the hands he jammed with, and I remember him jamming with just top pair, a flush draw, and then another top pair. So I'm feeling a little bit more confident, and I start to do some hand reading. Like I said, he can't have top set here because he would have 3-bet on the button. He shouldn't have pocket 7s here because he's an ultra aggressive opponent and probably would have 3-bet as well. So the only hand I'm behind to is 7-9, which can't have a higher heart than me, like I said. Now, there's an obvious flush draw out there, and with the 10 of hearts, I block a lot of the combinations of flush draws, so I'm not super worried about that, but even if he does have 2 overs and a flush draw, it's a coin flip. There's only 2 up and downs he could have, 6-8 suited and 8-10 suited. I block 2 combos of 8-10 suited, and I also block 2 of 8 outs if he has 6-8. I also like to put myself in the opponent's shoes in spots like this, so think about it. He's on the button. There's a $15 raise. He calls. small blind calls, and then some kid in the big blind 3-bets to 55, right? Cutoff calls, now he only has to put in 40 to win 180, assuming the small blind will call, which he should most of the time given the pot odds. Then the flop comes out with no high cards, and the kid that 3-bet pre bets half pot. Cutoff folds, and now action's on him. There's 330 in the pot, and in a 3-better's range, there's a lot of just high cards that will have to fold to his shove, and if he connected with his board at all, he might as well try to take it down here, or have some outswing called. Plus, he's known for going all in. So, when I combine all these thought processes, I land on a call. He winces as I call, which gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. I ask if he wants to run it once or twice. He signals once. I'm confident I made the right decision here. The dealer knocks the table and puts out the turn, which is a 5 of hearts. Not the flush. He knocks the table again and puts a 7 of spades on the river. Mr. All-In frantically reaches for his cards and shows 6-8 of clubs for he turned straight. Yeah, I'm beside myself, and like I said, I brought no more money, so I just have to tuck my tail in, wish the table good luck, and make the walk of shame. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd ask that you please bow your heads for a moment of silence for that run out. Thank you. So it was a pretty quick and unfortunate session. Definitely the most expensive Vietnamese coffee I've ever had. We're in for $720 and out for 0. Hurts a little bit to lose my rent in an hour and a half and not have another buy-in behind, but it's just the nature of the game. You know, I played every hand to the best of my ability. I made the right call in a huge spot as a 77% favorite for over $1,200 and got sucked out on. But the math doesn't lie, and I believe in my game and my willingness to adapt and learn. You know, money comes and goes, and so does satisfaction and fulfillment. When you win, it's easy to look at the profit and confirm to yourself that you played good. But when you lose, it's hard to focus on the correct decisions you did make. Before I began vlogging, just like 2 weeks ago, I would still keep notes about certain situations and new things I noticed, things I could improve on, my thought processes at the time, ways I need to adapt, you know, just everything that comes with being self-aware of your game, I would try to write down, and this actually helped me a lot. I was able to not focus so much on the short-term results, but rather learn and grow from whatever situation I was in. Poker's a great metaphor for life. You know, I've been through the trenches in poker, and I've been through some rough shit in real life, but it's important to remember you can't control the outcome. You can only control your response. If I choose to be upset, complain that I got sucked out on, then I'm just going to be miserable, and I'm going to be choosing to suffer. But if I calm down and evaluate the situation, I learn that, hey, you know, maybe when I'm out of position with middling pocket pairs, I should 3-bet to 5.5x instead of 3.5x. There's a lesson to be learned in every session, and just in these first 2 videos I've made, after running through these hands over and over, I realized how having to make a conscious, well-thought-out explanations of the actions I choose really makes me more accountable. I mean, it's crazy to think back before I was even documenting my sessions late February, just how much different of a player I was, and how much different I evaluated the game in certain spots. And guess what? I won way more money at that time than I did now. That's why it's important to not look at the short-term results as a basis for your gameplay, but just stay focused on the path you're in. Yeah, that's my TED Talk for the day. If you enjoyed this session, well, okay, I don't know why you would unless you're Mr. All-In, but if you enjoyed what I had to say, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time. Be easy.